Hey guys, Bawk here, and this is my Battle for Azeroth pre-patch Feral Druid PvP guide. Alright, so I just want to start off this guide by saying that this is strictly for Battleground and rated Battleground play, since that is mainly what I do in PvP. I just want to clarify that on this guide, so let's get right into it. So I'm going to start off with stats and gear. So for the pre-patch for Feral Druids, you're mainly wanting to focus as much haste as possible. Now in random battlegrounds or RBGs, trinkets now work. So you can equip your trinkets. Legendaries still do not work, and all artifact abilities are gone. So, as you can see, I have two Boomkin legendaries equipped, and that is because they have a ton of haste, and the shoulders have crit, so that's mostly what I'm going for. So, you want to focus as much haste as possible, and then the second thing you want to go for is crit. So, try to find as much crit and haste gear as you can find in your inventory, because that is pretty much what you want. And gems also work. I have mastery on there, but that's besides the point. I'll change that later. So enchants work, gems work, everything works right now in PvP. Food buffs work. Your little augment rune works. Flasks work. They probably don't work in RBGs, but those all work in random battlegrounds. Pre-pots work, potions, so potions of prolonged power. I forget the other one. Potions of prolonged power. All right, so that's pretty simple. Stack haste, and if you have to go for another stack, go for crit, mastery, and versatility. I kind of want to avoid that at this point. Mastery does, in fact, mastery does increase the damage done to your bleeds, but I mean, you don't need a lot to get a lot out of mastery right now. So as you can see, I have 161 mastery, and it's increasing the damage done by my bleed abilities by 34.3%, which is pretty good. So I would say that that's not something to prioritize, because right now our bleeds are affected by haste. So they just changed that in the pre-patch. So that is what you should go for. Haste. Alright. So, in terms of talents, this is subjective, but this is a build that I am finding a lot of success with in random battlegrounds. So I'm going to start off with Lunar Inspiration, Wild Charge, Resto Affinity, Typhoon, Soul of the Forest, Sabertooth, and Blood Talons. So I kind of want to break this down and go a little more in depth here. So I went with Lunar Inspiration because that's just not good in PvP. And Blood Scent, you don't really need that much crit right now, so I wouldn't worry about Blood Scent. And Lunar Inspiration is really good because you can Moonfire spam in Battlegrounds with a lot of haste. So that's a really good thing to have, so you can build up your combo points as you're going through enemies and dotting everything up. So that is definitely a good choice. Now, I'm not going to go really into depth with these. Wild Charge is just kind of a given for Feral. I would say Tiger Dash is actually pretty good, but that's really up to you. I just feel like I'd rather have a leap or a way to get away with travel form and stuff like that. So Resto Affinity is really good now. Or I wouldn't say really good, but it helps boost your survivability up a little bit more with heals. Since we're using Blood Talons, so you really want to prioritize using your regrowth. So Resto Affinity. Second best would be Balance Affinity, but they lowered the range to 3 yards from 5 yards, so it's not as good as it used to be. Now for the level 60 row, I would go with Typhoon or Mighty Bash. It depends on what you have in terms of who you're playing with, your comps, and stuff like that. I prefer Typhoon for maps where there's like ledges and you can knock people off and get an advantage on a map. And Mighty Bash, I think, would have more use in like going to be a situation where you're sitting at a base and stuff like that. So for the 75 tier row, I ended up going with Soul of the Forest, and this is to maintain some more energy in your rotation. So every finishing move grants 5 energy per combo point spent, so you're getting back a lot of energy. So every time you're using Ferocious Bite or Rip or anything Maim, stuff like that. So that's a pretty big deal. Jagged Wounds can kind of make your stuff drop off quicker, but at this point, energy is kind of an issue for Feral, so I would say Soul of the Forest is definitely your go-to for Battlegrounds, specifically. Now, Incarnation is probably better for, like, arenas, but like I said, this is a Battleground guide, so I don't want to really touch on that as much. So for the 90 tier, I went with Sabertooth, and this is to buff up your bite even more, because we're going to be going with Ferocious Wound, so you are going to be Ferocious Biting a lot, and you will have Rip up on your target, so this is a good way to refresh Rip without wasting a lot of energy. So this is also rolling back into the energy issue for Feral right now. So Savage Roar would be another good one, and Brutal Slash is good for like AoE situations, but I'm not a really huge fan of Brutal Slash in PvP. It did get nerfed a lot during Legion for PvP, so I'm not a huge fan of it, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. So for the final tier, I went with Blood Talons, and that is to just increase the damage of your next two melee abilities by 25%. And that's a huge deal when you're buffing your bite and you're using it on bite and using it to refresh your bleeds. So Moment of Clarity got a huge nerf with the pre-patch, so it's not really a really wonderful talent anymore. Feral Frenzy is just like Ashermane's Frenzy, so it can be good, but I haven't really tested it a whole lot, so I'm not I don't feel like a 45-second cooldown is going to be as significant as Blood Talons, which you can use constantly, you know, if that makes sense. So I definitely would say to go with Blood Talons. Alright, so we will go over the PvP talents now. So this is pretty simple. Gladiator's Medallion for a trinket. Just a good way to get out of everything and really be able to get on a target that you need to get on, or get away from a situation and stuff like that. So for the other three, I went with Rip and Tear, Ferocious Wound, and Savage and Momentum. Now I'm going to kind of explain my reasoning here. So Rip and Tear instantly applies Rake and Rip to the target. So you can use that in stealth, so that is a good thing to use. So you can get Rip and Rake on your target very quickly, and then you can build up and swap to another target, or focus on that target and burst them down as quickly as possible. So that's a very good talent to pick. So for the second one, I picked Ferocious Wound, and that is because it focuses more on using your bites at 5 combo points. So it reduces the health by up to 8% for 30 seconds, and it stacks up to 2 times. So you can reduce the health of your target and do a lot of damage in the process by buffing up your Blood Talon, or buffing up your Ferocious Bite with Blood Talons and Sabertooth. So with this build, you're going to be using a lot of Ferocious Bite once all of your bleeds are up. Alright, so the last one I picked was Savage and Momentum. And like I said earlier, we are having an energy issue in the pre-patch because of stat reduction. So this is a big thing to help you get more Tiger's Fury into your rotation as you're fighting the enemy. So you can interrupt with Skull Bash and reset the cooldown of Tiger's Fury. Now, I would say that a contender for swapping out would probably be Savage Momentum. If you're fighting a melee heavy comp, then you could swap to Thorns and macro Thorns into your Survival Instincts, and then you'll have a nice little cooldown there. There's really not much else that is necessary. I feel like these are probably the 3 strongest out of all of them. So I would definitely keep with them, maybe try Thorns, but that's it. That's all I would say for that. So in terms of technique, the most important thing about Feral Druid right now is making sure that you get up your bleeds as quickly as possible. So because haste affects our bleeds now, our bleeds are ticking faster and they're doing a lot more damage depending on how much haste you have. So as a Feral, you kind of want to be sneaky, and you can get up your bleeds and then run away and then target other people, put up your bleeds and go back to your old target, get up your bite and stuff like that. Alright, so I don't have much else to say, so I'm going to drop it there. And I'm going to roll some clips of Feral Druid PvP that I have done from the past couple days during the pre-patch. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.